Good morning, everybody. I'm Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Camosa, and welcome to the Victoria Real Estate Show with
Jen Lowe, mortgage broker at DLC Modern Mortgage Group.
and
Andrew Frank with 5 Real Estate Group. I wonder what would happen if I stayed silent. Thank you, Jen.
It is May 9th, you guys. So, wow, we're past the first quarter. We're 5/12, whatever, of the year. How's it going?
It's been I'm on track for doing a good year. It's been pretty busy. And so that's good to know because, you always wonder what the year is going to be like. Every year is a new one. But yeah, really excited about it, actually.
Good. How about you, Jen?
It's been interesting. Not purchase transactions are definitely increasing now, and lots of mortgage renewals over the next few months for sure.
Awesome. I'm having a good year. For me, it's been slow, but I realize that perhaps I was slowing myself down.
How so?
Because I've had a very busy 4 years. We did a lot of transactions last year, I think over 80 as a group.
Wow.
So it was a little, in December, I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot. And it's hard to everything's got to be balanced. So,
Yep.
But how many people in your group?
There's me and Kayla,
right,
who are the listing buyer agents. And then there's Danielle, who's our support person.
Right. So yeah, well, 80 transactions between two people that's good. Two realtors and an assist. Yeah, great.
Yep. So, but anyway, so we're ramping back. Well, we have been ramping back up. We started out very listing heavy, which I think is what the market is doing. And anyway, I had an epiphany yesterday. So I arranged a tour of all of the Metchosin. I asked all the Metchosin realtors if you wanted to go on a tour. So we went and viewed each other's properties. And after chatting with them, I realized there needs to be an adjustment.
How do you mean for your price point for one of your listings?
For everybody's price point.
Right. Yeah.
And just based on the fact that the inventory is going up, was like, we're all like the float in the toilet. And we're stuck up here and the water's going down and we need to go down with it.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I mean, Metchosin's its own market, right? And if nothing's selling out there, it's because, it's not got enough draw to pull people out from the more central areas. But then again, It's also very unique, right? It's got its own feel that will draw people to it regardless of its distance.
Right. And the other thing I realized is because there were two realtors who came on the tour who weren't from the area, and we went to a place and one of the realtors was like, I love this place. I said, this property is a flip. And I know what it looked like before and I know what it looks like now. And this is the difference between before and after. And he kept commenting and I said, just go and look at the property before. Just go and look at the property before.
What's that got to do with anything though? A flip's not a negative word necessarily if it's done well.
No, I just was saying then you can see the work that's because he was thinking it was all new. So I just wanted to say, they worked with the bones of the property, and then they did these upgrades, and so I'm just saying it is important to go with somebody who knows the local area well, because you know what the pre and post are. You know what I'm saying? You would know Hillside probably really well, right? Victoria really well.
When there's 3,000, 6,000 properties on market, whatever. There's so many properties coming on every day. It's impossible to stay on top of drinking from the fire hose. You do get to know your market, but you don't get to know everything in it. I think nobody can do that. So, and so I agree with you, Jane, in principle. Like knowing the area is really important, and especially they talk about, for example, there's some areas on the mainland where you might be buying in a floodplain, and if you are an agent coming from a different area to help someone buy or sell in that area, you're not necessarily going to have that local area knowledge. But at the same time, we do have tools like looking up the old listings sold last year, pictures, and that's something we should just generally do so we understand it.
Do you want to check if your mic is set up because it's sounding a bit wobbly?
Okay, let me see.
That's better. I don't know why.
I didn't do a thing.
Okay. One comment I was just going to make is I just feel, or it'll be interesting to see once the next Bank of Canada meeting happens beginning of June. They're saying that's going to cause a surge in the marketplace, so the real estate market. So is that going to then increase prices?
Well, so the question is, so I heard there's a 70% chance based on this of an increase happening.
Or a decrease to the rate.
Or a decrease happening. Yeah. So then, that's interesting to me. I don't know, but we can, here's my thought. I'm sure it's Andrew's thought too. We can only make a decision based on what's happening in the moment.
Most definitely.
I think that's one thing that I've learned over the years. And, we both really talk a lot about our, we all give our predictions for the future, but at the same time, there's never really any way to know. And I get a lot of questions from clients. Well, what about this? What about this? What if this happens? What if that happens? And anything could happen. So until generally that, if this is where the trend is, or this is what the pundits are saying or whatever, but it's really impossible to say. So it's so much easier to live and exist in the moment than to try to over predict the future. It's really impossible.
Yeah, I agree.
But if interest rates go down, prices will go up, unless the economy is also tanking at the same time.
It depends. I think it also depends on what's going on with the inventory at that time, because if there's still a lot of choice, I don't foresee them. Like I'm thinking downtown condos right now. I went and viewed 12 properties on Thursday. Last week, and I've gotten 12 realtors hounding me for feedback, and I have a couple of investors who are looking now. So they are those type of people who are attuned to maybe we're at the bottom of the falling knife.
Mm-hmm. We talk about buyer pools because oftentimes the stats talk about the market in general. When the market has this many sales and this many listings, but there's the sub segments of the market. There's certain price points, there's certain areas, there's condos, houses, townhouses. So the downtown condo market is especially for the ex Airbnb type properties, the small ones, it's pretty dead, and the buyer pool for that is really, really small. And I always think in terms of buyer pool, and you could have a listing that's really, really nice that's coming up of any kind of configuration. But if the buyer pool isn't existing for that property at that moment, it's going to sit on market. But
that's a great point.
Mm-hmm.
Change in the market can bring buyers flooding back into that pool.
Right. And so that's why things like recreational properties go through their ebb and flow. And even like seasonally, we'll see that happening because like at Christmas, there just isn't a big buyer pool. So
exactly.
People aren't thinking they want a summer property at Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so much easier to see inventory of listings, but inventory of buyers is more difficult. And that is it's the whole supply demand ratio that you think, that is the market. It's not just how many properties are out there. You could have 10,000 properties on market, but if you've got 10,001 buyers, you're still in a seller's market.
Right. And so I agree. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. There is a way to see a buyer pool, though, based on one of the programs that we both subscribe to.
Yeah, that we both use.
Yeah, but at the same time, that is limiting because I think it's only people using that particular program, not using the Matrix portal. So, but it does give you a good idea based on price where you are if you're going to reach a different buyer pool. So
it's definitely, that's a good conversation piece with sellers, but it's not a stat that we can actually broadcast to our audience here to say, this is what we have. I mean, we can certainly be an interesting one day to run some experiments on that. I've done that before.
Yeah.
And just gone to random properties and seen, what are the price points that make a big difference.
And the one thing that I found is if you are, you can be theoretical about it. You can be theoretical about pricing. However, the most important thing is to realize it just takes one buyer to be interested in that property to make the sale happen. And if there's more than one buyer, that you bring them all together at the same time. So that's why the pre-marketing and the marketing makes sense.
Right. There is that. I mean, the one thing about that, if, it just takes one buyer, that's absolutely true, but it's really important still not to get unrealistic because, you list a $500,000 condo for $1 million thinking, oh, there may be just one buyer. I just need one buyer.
They're not coming.
They're not coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You have to be statistically within the market value to appeal. And you also have to make it appealing there's all sorts of factors here.
Yeah. And that's all for discussion with sellers. So, and that's the thing, sellers, this segues into what we're talking about today. How do you pick a realtor? And so there's a lot of conversations you're going to have before maybe you finalize on your choice.
Right. So
some good questions you might want to ask.
Let's do the stats today first, shall we?
Yeah, shall we do that? Sure.
Can I ask one question about stats?
Yes.
How, for both of you guys, on average, like every day, how much time do you spend looking at stats?
Oh my God. All the time.
All day? Or
Well, it depends on what you define as stats. I mean, I'm always looking at the hot sheets. I'm looking at what's coming up for sale.
Yeah.
When we're reviewing a property for market to go to market and trying to come up with market value, we're going to be looking at a lot of stats in that sense. At the same time, Jane and I do this show, and you join us in this show. We're all doing the show, and we look at stats. And that to me that's my time for looking at stats in terms of the big picture stuff.
Yeah. So big picture stuff, I'm looking at it every month when I'm reviewing the statistics. I go through numerous websites to see where things are sitting. But like this morning, I was lying in bed at 6 a.m. doing a market analysis on my phone. And so I'm looking at stats when I'm listing a property, both before we go active and while we're going active. And then we actually share that data with sellers so that they're informed. So how often do you look at stats, Jen?
Every day. Yeah. Stats. Yeah. Same thing. It's all the time. This is my leeway into one of the questions for how you choose a good realtor.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So first of all, if you do like this topic and it's of interest to you or perhaps a friend, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to our YouTube channels. Andrew and I both have a YouTube channel. And also, don't forget to comment. We really want to hear what you have to say. And please share it to your friends. You can share the link of what you're watching today. Okay, so Andrew, take it away.
So we have today is May the 9th of 2024, and we had 420 new listings come on in the last week. 155 properties went pending, 159 price decreases. That's more price decreases than properties that were going pending. 2 price increases, 7 properties back on market, 100 properties sold, 48 expired, and 4 withdrawn. So what's interesting when I look at this is properties are continuing to sell, but the price decreases are higher than the properties going pending. But people are still being realistic, adjusting price, not holding on to price and just letting their property expire unsold, because that expired number is small enough. If we look at the week before, we can see that we've increased this week over last week. Last week we only had 392 new listings. Still quite a few new listings. We had 170 properties go pending, 166 price decreases, and 76 expired and 7 withdrawn. You will find the expireds will often peak around the first of the month, in the 15th, because it depends on when people sort of tend to put their contracts together.
Okay, so actually I took this and I just looked at the ratio. So last week the list to sale, the pending to new listings was 43%, and this week it's 36%. And the price decreases last week were 42%, and this week they're 38%. So interesting to look at the ratios here.
Yeah, ebb and flow as well as things change. I mean, overall they're pretty close, but
back to your,
it does look like sales have gone down.
Yeah.
Sorry,
so
Jen?
What?
Jane's epiphany, that kind of highlights your epiphany from yesterday.
Yes. So the epiphany is we all need to do a little price adjustment here. Okay, so we're at 111 net unconditional sales. That's as of Monday. And that's compared to 775 for the month of May in 2023. New listings were at a total as of Monday at 344 for the month, and that's compared to 1,356 for May of 2023. In total active listings, we are up at 3,102, and that's compared to 2,189. So holy smokes, we're up increase of 30%. So
okay.
Financing report, Jen, how are things going?
It's interesting. We're seeing small decreases on the fixed rate side. We're expecting those to just stay around 5%. Right now, one particular credit union has a very aggressive 5-year fixed rate at 4.74, which is wonderful. The turnaround time, however, because they're so much lower than the rest of the lenders right now, their turnaround time is very slow, but it's worth the wait, given how much lower that 5-year fixed rate is. We're also seeing so this is where it gets confusing, an increase to the spread that you can get on a variable rate. So the bigger the spread, the lower your rate is for a variable. Yeah. So you want prime minus, there's around prime minus 1.01 is currently being offered with a green lender. And that's
a green lender. What is that?
A green bank. Green.
Oh, I see. Okay, I thought it had something to do with the. I thought it had something to do with the environment.
Oh, yeah, well, that's a good thing too. Yes, but that's a limited time special. But that tells me again that there's rates are expected. There's a big chance that prime's going to drop, so they're going to offer a decrease or an increase to that spread right now, but that will probably shorten up once the price does drop.
Right.
So it's really honestly the same at the end for the client.
What's prime right now?
Prime is 7.2.
So you could go 4.74% on fixed for 5 years, or basically 6.2 on variable, which may go down.
Yeah.
But so you're saying, but that spread will get smaller if the rates drop. So you're actually better off to take it now, because that spread will stay with you throughout the term of your mortgage. Whereas if you get a smaller spread later, you may end up with the same nominal. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Now, there's other factors, though, like the penalty calculations and that as well, with a fixed rate versus a variable. So depending on clients' plan in the property they're purchasing also comes into play as well.
So what is
You
a
mentioned-
penalty what is a penalty on a variable rate mortgage? It's 3 months interest?
That's right. Yeah.
And what's a penalty on, term?
It's the greater of either an interest rate differential penalty that's got a complex calculation. It depends on where the interest rates are at the time and the discount you received, etc. So it's the greater of the interest rate differential penalty or a 3-month interest penalty.
Okay.
The one you mentioned before that's such a great rate, fixed rate, that it's a longer time for getting approvals.
Yeah.
How long are they looking at? And I have a follow-up question.
Well, this is where it gets tricky. They're saying minimum 10 business days if it's a purchase transaction for financing.
Yeah.
So as a broker, we can create some strategies around that in managing the expectations and making it all come together. But yeah, so at minimum 10 business days for turnaround.
Okay, I do have a follow-up question, but Jane, you want to take your...
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they could qualify for a different lender first and then go back and qualify for this lender. And then I'm wondering if they have to have specific qualifications themselves to qualify for the great rate.
No, there's no specific qualifications for them to qualify for the really low rate. What can happen is because the lender has such an influx of applications, they can be more pick and choosy. So, which, if there's something about the property that they don't particularly like, or there's something, the strata minutes, if it's a condo, that kind of thing, there can be, we don't want to bank on that. So I do potentially look at getting another approval from another lender to have as a backup plan.
Okay.
That was my follow-up question, Jane. And thank you, Jen, for answering it. It's, could they go to another lender, or could the broker go to another lender, get the approval in a week's time, confirm approval, and then you can go shop around after that at your leisure once you know that you've got lending.
Yes.
Covered.
We don't love to do that.
No.
But because and honestly, I mean, that's the advantage to clients for using a mortgage broker. We can always, that their bank may end up where we get the approval from, they might match that rate that the other lender's offering. And we just play the game a little bit at that point. Yeah,
fair enough. Yeah, you definitely have more options to pull from, and you can help people get to the finish line in a smoother, faster way. Okay, cool.
All right, let's do the top 5 questions. So if you're looking to sell your home, I should put buy, because really when coming up with these questions, both sides came up.
They apply to both, and it's really, how do you pick an agent? What are some things you might want to consider? So this is not exhaustive.
Yes, and so these lead to other questions. So we're going to talk today about what are the today we're going to talk about what are the top 5 things to ask a listing agent. Number 1, Andrew.
Sure. A good question to ask is, how long have you been in the business? And that answer could be, there's nothing, so what's their experience, and are they full-time? These are good things to know. And obviously, a full-time incompetent realtor may not be as good a choice as a part-time really competent realtor. But
yes,
these are all nuanced. But full-time realtor is someone who is spending their time and energy, and it's their chosen vocation. So it's going to be someone who generally is going to be able to help you out and answer all your questions. Yeah.
What do you find, Jen? Do you work with different realtors of different eras and abilities and skills and experience? How important is it?
Extremely important. We see I want to be a little bit careful what I say, but some challenges that we see with strata documents, stuff like that, and quite often there will be, I can tell if someone is part-time or they are full-time. I mean, how quickly I get responses.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, the engagement and how, full part-time, it's harder to respond to some inquiries when you're working another job or otherwise involved.
To me, the question, how long have you been in the business, is really how wise are you about what is going to happen and whether or not you can anticipate the questions and the issues that are going to come up. And so if you're able to answer the question before the question comes up, then you are lessening the stress of the people you're working with.
You're talking about anticipating problems based on the fact that you've been down this road before and you can see the bumps in the road coming up ahead, and you can help to highlight them for your clients so that we can navigate, avoid whatever. And someone who doesn't have that kind of experience isn't necessarily going to recognize that stuff, and they have to learn as they go, as those bumps just roll over them.
And I think, I don't know, maybe Andrew, you can comment on this. I think there's a bit of intuition in real estate about what's happening. And as you said, we talk about our experience going through things. We're probably in our third, maybe, turnaround of the cycle of real estate. So I'm thinking that if somebody said to us, oh, we get ahead of the market, we would know, get ahead of the market because you want to, anticipate what's going on.
And again, I think there's some, I've met some really wise younger people who've been in the business a short time but are doing really well and are really great with their clients. I've also seen, and we have both experienced in our careers agents who are actually been in the business for a long, long time, but are no longer sharpening their saw and keeping their tools. Like they're on their way out of the business. So it's really, these are important questions to ask, but they're nuanced, and you want to ask deeper questions as well. Like, are you full-time? Are you really engaged? How long have you been doing this? Do you work with, so it's,
and how many
it's really, this is a conversation that you're going to have with someone. This is a real conversation you want to have with someone. You don't want to just be yes, no answers. You don't want to be just, 15 years, 10 years, 3 years. And realtors who are, we all have our kind of advocacy for how long we've been in the business and whether we are full or part-time is a benefit or not. And you'll get different answers depending on who you're talking to. You should really understand for yourself what you're looking for as well and what you want. Yeah.
So the other thing is rules change a lot in real estate, and the whole practice of real estate has really changed, I would say, in the past 5 years, especially since COVID, just because of the changing behavior of realtors and different access to data and the way that we can film things and all of that. Like the rules are changing around real estate and how we handle it. And so we have to be adaptable. And there are some people who they don't adapt, or they get overwhelmed by it, or they don't have the help to do it, or maybe perhaps they're in a brokerage that isn't explaining all of this to them. So I think this is really important to say, like, how up to date are you? What are the most recent changes in real estate? I think that will really inform you.
One thing I've noticed is there are some people, and not many, but there's some sets of people who see realtors kind of like we're all the same, and you could just pick one off the shelf and you're going to get the same. And no, we're like completely, every realtor is going to be a completely different experience. We all are, we are under the same rules and regulations, but we could definitely have, there's different experience levels, there's different approaches, there's different personalities. There's also, as Jane alluded to, different brokerages, which have their own sets of, their own culture and supports and training and so forth. So these all play into it.
Yeah. Okay. Number 2, do you work with buyers and sellers? Why or why not?
Jane, why don't you answer that and I'll answer mine?
Okay, well, I do work with both buyers and sellers because I feel that when you work with buyers, it really informs you with what's happening kind of at the ground level, and you hear their response to things, and you start to see themes that are happening, like, oh, I don't like this condo without a view, or well, I prefer south facing, and there's as again the nuances that you're listening to. So then when you go into a listing appointment, I feel that you're more informed as a listing realtor to understand the potential buyers that are going to be attracted to this estate, and how they're going to be approaching it. Then again, you're anticipating, so that affects your marketing.
Yeah, I 200% agree, and that's my approach as well. I know that there are some realtors who focus only on listings, and that is their business, and they have a buyer's agent that exclusively works with buyers. But I feel like you don't really get to see it. I feel like you're really hurting yourself by doing that. And I always think in terms of, am I wearing the buyer's hat today or the seller's hat? And when I'm talking to the sellers about their property and walking through it and chatting with them, I'm able to see it both through their eyes, as they're telling me and describing to me everything they love about it, but also through the buyer's eyes of the various buyers that I've worked through in my career, and can see, okay, well, a buyer's going to be noticing this, a buyer's going to be noticing this. This is going to be of concern. This is going to be a really good benefit. These are the things we want to highlight. And I think it makes us a more fulsome realtor by being able to do both sides of it. And I also really, really enjoy working both with buyers and sellers. There's a different set of rewards and experience in each of those.
Jen, do you have anything you want to add?
No.
Okay.
I mean, from my standpoint, I'm dealing with both buyers and sellers as well, people selling a property versus people buying a property. I enjoy working with both sides of it. I've definitely seen a change where we're not seeing as many subject to sale, which is making me a little nervous for those people that are wanting to then potentially take that risk of not having that subject to sale condition.
So when you say you're seeing less subject to sales, this is a bit of a side road, but sounds like a really important thing to dive into. You're talking about people who actually have to sell a home
for their down
and are making offers, but not including a subject to sale clause. So they're just trusting their home will get sold.
Yes.
Okay, which is risky, folks.
Most definitely. There's a plan A and there's a plan B. And I provide both options in those certain scenarios. Last week I just had two of them. That clients are wanting a specific property and they're unable to get it without having that or with having that subject to sale. So they remove that. So then we look at what the scenario would look like if they don't sell that property and it's perhaps rented out.
Yeah, and I would say so I had this discussion yesterday with a client who hadn't previously considered holding on to their current property, but what I'm doing is connecting her with the resources so she can make an informed decision. I can't counsel her to do that because I don't know her finances in and out.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't counsel somebody to do that. But I do remember early in my career that happened, that the buyer took out a subject to sale, and we ended up completing just before the other offer. We got an accepted offer on their property, and I said, "Hey, so and so, that means that it's all going to flow." And they're like, "Yeah." And I realized they were under stress. So now I would that's a difference, I think, in experience. Just a little learning from the sharp end of the stick back then. Okay. So for those who are looking to sell your home, I think it's important to look at the number of the experience of the realtor, but also what is the list to sale ratio? How are they going to be negotiating for you, whether or not their marketing is actually working? So, do they list 100 properties and sell 30? Or do they list 30 and sell 30?
This is where I think I've always had a bit of a problem with this stat, because I think it's easily misconstrued. So for example, when you're talking list to sale ratio, was it the list price when it sold versus what it sold for? It could have been on market for 90 days, gone through 5 price reductions from the original price, be $100,000 less than they started with. But your list to sale ratio is 100% because they got final asking price. And also, we're not asking how many of your listings expire and get relisted. And those are really more important to me than this is all in background information, but it's not going to be easily gathered. I think not many agents are going to be sharing that. So you kind of need to be able to see behind the curtain on this. I mean, this may be an unpopular opinion, but that's just my 2 cents on that one.
I think this is very important. I would be asking that if I were going to visit maybe my dad's town where he lived in Ontario, and I was looking for an agent, I'd be like, okay, well, I want somebody who's busy but not too busy. I want somebody who actually gets places sold, but they have a good handle on the market, and I want to make sure their marketing is good so that they attract the right buyer and all of that stuff. To me, those all fall under the statistics question, and there is actually a report you can get in Matrix about yourself.
Yeah. So numbers of sales per year, folks. If you are comparing someone who's sold 20 properties in a year versus somebody who sold 3 properties in a year versus somebody who's sold 100 properties in a year, the answer to who is the best choice is not necessarily any of those numbers. The person who sold 3 properties might have been on vacation for 6 months or on sick leave or something, but the person who sold 100 may not have been able to give service to their clients unless they had supports and systems. Jean has an assistant and another agent she's working with, so she's able to handle those kind of numbers. But a single agent may be doing those numbers. You're never going to see or hear from them, perhaps. So those are important numbers to ask, but it's also really important to understand what the impact of those numbers are. The list to sale ratio is another kind of, that's good to know. It's also good to know what the industry average is, so you can compare that against something. And most people on average, full-time agents are going to beat the average list to sale ratio. They're going to beat the average list to sales price.
I think you can get that statistic from the board, the Victoria Real Estate Board.
You can.
But the other thing, this is actually important for realtors who are looking for brokerages too, is because your brokerage has an average number of sales per agent per year, and just looking to see who are the people that you're working with who are doing well or not doing well. So, do you want to go with a company where people are kind of exiting the business, or do you want to go with a company where people are ramping up, or what's the culture of the business? That's all important.
And a tip for you newer agents, if there's any newer agents watching us, one of the things that we were always coached to do when we were starting out in this business was, if we don't have statistics of our own, use the broker's statistics. And so when you're doing a presentation to buyers or sellers, sharing that, your brokerage has an average of this, your brokerage has an average of that. We are the sum of the people that are around us. And so surround yourself with good people, and you will rise with them.
That's an awesome point. Okay, number 4. Can you explain the process of us working together? How do we communicate with one another, and what's your availability? And this really, I think this is really important because it deals with how much attention you're going to get. What's your alignment going to be with the person? And are you going to communicate? It's like dating, where you're going to you're going to resonate with one another, I guess.
I think this is one of the most important questions in this list is, what's the process of working together? And you listen to the person's answer, but also notice the process that's already begun of you talking to them and working together. Are you getting the answers you're asking for? Are you feeling confident in the answers they're giving? How do you feel about this person in general? That's really, really key. And because at the end of the day, if you don't have someone who's got your back, if you don't have someone that you can call, that you can rely on, that you can trust, that they could have, again, 100 sales a year, and have a great list to sale ratio, but your experience will be a really unhappy one potentially if you're not really feeling like you're serviced or fulfilled.
I've got a question for you guys. How do you handle the availability piece? Because I mean, that going back to a part-time realtor, or if they're wanting to look for a property and that part-time realtor is at another job, and then they potentially could miss out on that property.
That's a great question.
So this is exactly. Sorry. This. So
yeah. Go ahead, Jane. We're going to keep doing this. I'm not.
Okay. So, first of all, I think as a realtor, when you finish working with somebody, you really need to reflect with them on how the process went and how you can improve it. And they will give you feedback on your availability and all that stuff. What we do is we ask them for 3 times that they're available so that we can just get the answer and get the appointment booked. And we train them to give us what works for them. And that way we're not we've eliminated 2 or 3 texts back and forth.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I do the same. And it's really actually can be hard to train people on that as much as you have the conversation, ask them again and again. And very invariably you'll get the, hey, can I see this? Email or text. And then you've got the back and forth. But no, give me a few times, because it just makes it really easy. But in terms of our availability, the key point from that is if we do our best to manage our time so we can give time to our clients. And one of the conversations that's often happening is, look, I'm in a meeting with you right now. We're talking about your property. I haven't been looking at my phone repeatedly. I'm here with you, fully present. That being said, there will be times when I'm going to be fully present with my other clients as well. And there's a hierarchy of needs. And some things, like if you have a question and it's not urgent, send me an email and I'll get back to you within a certain time frame. If it's urgent, call or text. I'll do my best to get back to you sooner. We are weaving and balancing our time all the time. And I find, like, I will have a day that is chock-a-block full of appointments. It's looking like it's going to be super stressful, super full. I'm trying to find ways to fit everything in because everybody wants to make an offer or see a property or to go, like, there's offers coming in. It's great. And then you get a call like, oh, we drove past the house. We're not interested anymore. And you cross that one off your day. And then you get a call like, oh, we decided not to write an offer on that property. So, okay, you cross that one off your day. And then your day is now suddenly wide open. And it's really hard to manage and say with certainty what we're doing, but we can certainly control our availability by not taking on too many clients, more than we can handle, by balancing our personal lives as well, by creating some boundaries and trying to define spaces with our clients and with our personal life. We do our best. Mm-hmm. But the availability piece is, like, I tell my clients, it's kind of a joke, but when I do a presentation with them, I say, my working hours are, Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, plus weekends, plus evenings.
That's funny.
That is funny. That's good.
Yeah, but it's true, right? But I tell them too, like, there are times when I will be, because of that, there's times when I will be needing some time to myself, or I may have some plans, and we need to balance these things. And there's a conversation with clients around respect and availability and balance, because I will be very, very available for them. There's going to be some times that I'm not. That's just natural.
So, I always try and make my clients, okay, so the question, just for people who just joined us, is how do you explain the process of your working with your realtor? So one of the things that I try and do is I prioritize my clients like Andrew does. So there's going to be people who are immediate and they need to find a house in the next little moment. And so we have to go out, like they're down to the one-offs. So it's like, I'll pick you up at work. We're going to see this during lunch, and then I'll take you back to work. And that's the way to make it happen. Or there's going to be people who are, I'm thinking of moving and it's going to be 2 or 3 months. Okay, so then the first person, the A, is going to take priority over the B. And the B, you can wait a few days or you can see it tomorrow. It's not I must see it today to get in sort of thing.
And this is a conversation we have with our clients as well, because our clients are not, A clients and B clients and C clients in that sense. The client is a client from a legal perspective. We owe them all the same duties. But there's that conversation of,
Urgency.
hey, if urgency. And so I talk about hunting versus prowling. If you're prowling, if you're just kind of like, I'm kind of looking, I'm kind of just checking things out, I'm going to see what's out here. That's great. I'm happy to go and show you properties, but don't call me up and say, hey, can I get through this today? Because I'm busy with, I've got other things and I don't want to be having tail wag the dog of just hopping to everybody else's drumbeat. Mm-hmm. And if you want to be having me able to help you to get familiar with the market, and you're not in a hurry and you're not actually in a position of being able to buy yet, or you're selling and you just want to kind of understand what the market's going on for, then let's set some times in advance. Let's set things up and let's do that. But if you've got but for someone else who is just ready to go and the property that's for them comes up that day and they're looking, it's going to go to multiple offers, you're jumping to get through that door and go see it and get an offer written.
Right. And so the same thing with listings is when you have a listing come up, you talk to the people, how would you like us to communicate with you? Do you want information? Mm-hmm. Like, do you want the feedback straight? Do you want it to go to everybody? Do you want to prioritize one person receiving the data over other people? Do you want everybody to get it? How do you want it in email or text messaging? And then, like, I have a client right now who uses Facebook Messenger. So everything goes through Facebook Messenger. That's the way she looks at her information, and just being really adaptable and understanding also what people's communication needs are. So some people like a lot of data. Some people like to be hugged and for us to come over and sit face to face with them. So, and obviously depending on the age of clients, like tomorrow I'm meeting somebody who's 95, who she will need me to be in front of her to do everything. Mm-hmm. And so I will be there for her.
Yeah.
And I think that at the end of the day, so what did somebody call me? A chameleon. She said, I refer a lot of people to you and everybody says different things. And I realize that you adapt to what their needs are, and that's really important. And it's like totally key in understanding the needs and wants of people. So how the process is, you're going to have a backbone, but there's going to be adaptability.
That's a great point. There's always the backbone, and there's, we each have our own arc of processes. And thanks for this, Lois. That's really nice. Lois says, hi, lots of great information, 2 amazing realtors in Victoria who care about their clients and are loaded with quality information. So there's this arc, this backbone of information, but then, or process, or just, how we work. But then there's also, we take our clients into account, and it's part of the conversation is, as I tell my clients as part of my onboarding success strategy meetings, hey, there's 1,600 realtors in Victoria. Everyone is doing it differently. What are your expectations of me? And what do you believe a realtor is? And what do you think their value is? And what do you think that they do? And we want to have that conversation so I can understand what they expect. And then we can maybe clarify some of those expectations, maybe help rejig some of those expectations if they're unrealistic. But also I can then focus some of my energies on meeting some of those expectations more, better than if I hadn't been aware of those. And so I will be a bit of a chameleon as well, because what we're doing is we're able to adapt and flow and work for our clients. We want to work and flow with our clients, and we want to be aligned with them. And this is another key piece is, there are some people who want a really hard hitting, heavy negotiating
shark,
right? And that's not going to be Jane or I. I mean, we can be shark-like, but it's not going to be. Jane's now swimming in the water. I don't know what she's doing. But we can be shark.
I
It's
am
gonna
the
be
velvet
shark-like.
hammer. Okay.
Yeah. The velvet hammer. You know, we're professional,
Velvet
but
hammer.
we're not going to be rude, and we're not going to be that kind of really arrogant negotiator, or that's just not who we are.
Okay. I have a funny story. When you're done.
I'm done.
Okay. So yesterday I was on the phone and I realized, oh my God, I forgot to change the time for response for a counter offer. And it was
Right.
due at 8:00. And so at 7:50, I called up the client and I said, I went, oh my God, I forgot to do this. And I'm like, expletive. I'm so sorry. I don't normally swear. And the one guy says, well, Jane, the more we hear from you, the more we like you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I guess you're human.
Yeah.
So funny. Anyway, I was like,
Okay, and that's a key point too. And this is probably a good add. This is a great side question and something that probably not a lot of people ask, but these are interview questions, folks. You're interviewing a realtor. And so think about interviewing for a job and the kind of questions that get asked. One great question is, hey, when you make a mistake, how do you fix it? How do you deal with it? How do you take responsibility for it?
right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we say that, we address that. I'm like, if there's a problem, just tell me and
Yeah.
I'll fix it right away. And,
Yeah.
I have somebody, a buyer who's coming in next week, and she's like, I'm not finding this property. So I went through and I was trying to figure it out. And then I realized the title was for a co-op and they didn't want a co-op. And
Right.
that's why I didn't show up. But it met all the other. So they went on realtor.ca and I'm like, if I was able to go and explain it and was prompt in answering the question. I think that's the key, don't you think? Just answering the question too.
Absolutely. Guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up soon. It's 10:22 and I'm so let's get on to
Okay.
number 5. Yeah.
Okay. Number 5 is just, do you have any testimonials? Like, you want to hear about what's happening from their other clients and whether or not they're happy. A lot of our marketing is around our client testimonials. I mean, obviously we're not going to post the bad ones, but we don't get
bad ones.
We don't get
I
bad
don't get
ones.
bad ones. Yeah. I mean, what's great is, and I'd like to do more of this, is have sort of I talked about an onboarding, but have an offboarding, like a conclusion meeting. And you referenced this earlier where, at the end of the day, talk about, what were the highlights, what went really well, what didn't go so well, what were things that you learned from this you hadn't expected, what could I have done differently? This is the kind of information, like if we just run onto the next deal and the next deal and the next deal and think of it as deals, we're not going to be transitioning well or improving what we do, because we are never going to be asking those questions. And it's really important to ask those questions, get that feedback. And yeah, there you go.
So don't forget, you guys, if you want to join us, we are here on Thursday mornings at 9:30. Please follow us. If you have any questions that you want answered, please let us know. This, we always have great discussions. Andrew has awesome points I don't think about, and Jen has lots to add regarding finances. So please get involved. We love to hear
Follow
from you.
us, right? Am I follow?
Follow us.
What is that?
I'm a shark, right?
That's going to be a thing now.
Follow us. Okay. Andrew, how do people reach us?
Well, they can reach me. Come to my website, andrewplank.com. Follow me on Instagram under plankandrew. Email me at info@andrewplank.com. Phone me or text me at 250-360-6106. Or just wave at me on the street if you see me out there. Thanks,
Okay.
folks.
Jen, how do people reach you?
Yeah, I'm at 250-217-4925 and j.low@dominionlending.ca. And my website is jenlow.ca.
Okay, and you can reach me. I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group. My number is 250-744-0775. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com. You can look at our team and what we do at briarhillgroup.com. And don't forget to look at these shows and more at victoriarealestateshow.com. And follow me on Instagram at realtyteacher_Remax_Victoria. And our new team one at Briar Hill Group. We're here to serve you, you guys. So if you have any questions, please get in touch. Take care. Have a great week. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.